Welcome to the Elevate Within podcast. I'm your host, Megan Ulsgaard, manifesting coach and intuition development expert. I'm here to help you fire up your intuition, up-level your mindset, co-create with the universe, and supercharge your manifesting abilities so that you can create a life that is truly elevated. I believe you are so incredibly powerful that nothing can stand in your way. It's your time to achieve that enormous goal that you've kept hidden for far too long. You're ready to go after everything you want and truly become unstoppable. It's time to upgrade your life from the inside out. Get ready to be elevated within every single day and attract the life that you are truly passionate about. Let's do this. What if I had a step-to-step guide with everything you need to get started working with your intuition and learning how to manifest? That would be pretty cool, right? Well, my friend, you're in luck. I have just the training for you. It's called Learn How to Work with Universal Energy to Manifest Quicker and Develop Your Own Intuitive Gifts. And it's yours for free. The masterclass will walk you through finding your own special intuitive abilities, how to receive signs from the universe, how your intuition helps you to manifest quicker, and the number one thing that prevents intuition development and how to bust through that barrier. My goal with this guide is to give you the tools that you need to go all in, working with your intuition and learning how to manifest with confidence. If you're thinking of tapping into your own intuitive abilities, but aren't quite sure where to start, or you're already working with your intuition, but you just aren't seeing the results you've expected by now, this is exactly what you need. Head over to infinitesoulblueprint.com/intuition to watch the masterclass and begin creating a life that you are truly obsessed with. infinitesoulblueprint.com/intuition. Welcome back. In today's episode, we're going to talk all about imposter syndrome. So if you've ever been at the point where you feel like you're just not an expert enough to talk about this thing that you want to talk about, you have this urge, you have this calling, but something is holding you back. And it might be because you feel like an imposter, you feel like you're not an expert, or you feel like you don't have enough knowledge, or there's something holding you back. Then today's episode is all about how to bust through that and how to overcome that imposter syndrome that we all have had at one point or another in our lives. So how do we move forward when that's creeping up on us? So imposter syndrome is really about feeling like you don't have enough knowledge, or feeling like, who am I to talk about this subject? Like, who am I? I see other people talking about it and they seem to know so much more than me. Who am I? Right? So it really connects into that self-worth piece. How worthy do you see yourself? How do you hold yourself? How do you hold your confidence? So a long time ago, I was at this point and I was scared. I was like, I know I'm spiritual, but I don't feel like I have enough knowledge to actually talk about this to other people. I just don't feel like I am an expert. And am I making this all up, right? Sometimes when we're working with intuitive information, we can be like, am I actually intuitive or am I making this all up? Needless to say, I felt like an imposter. And I was in one of my spiritual groups and someone said to me, and this really stuck with me, you only need courage, not confidence. So I was like, oh, that's very, very interesting. Most people don't have confidence when they're starting something new. Confidence comes as we're doing the thing. It comes through experience. So what these people have, though, is they have courage. They have courage to go after it, even if they don't feel confident. So if you're thinking of starting something new and you don't feel confident doing it, you're like, I'm not an expert, I don't feel confident in this, just know that the confidence will come as long as you have courage, and I know you do, then you can do this thing. So keep that in mind. You only need courage, not confidence. Confidence comes with experience. So with that being said, people don't always want an expert because they find it hard to connect with them. So if you're saying to yourself, I'm not enough of an expert because I don't know everything, just know that sometimes people don't want someone who's 20 steps ahead. Sometimes people only want someone who is 2 steps ahead because they can't connect to them on that level because the other person is so much farther ahead that the people that you're teaching can't even comprehend or understand what you're saying. So someone who is only a few steps ahead is so much more easily relatable. And it's just so much easier to connect with, because if you're, say, 2 steps ahead of your audience, then you were not that long ago where they are now. Okay. Someone who's 20 steps ahead was where your audience is maybe years ago. And it's almost like it's harder for them to connect because they almost forget what it feels like to be in that place of your audience, of your customers, of whoever it is that you're trying to teach this thing to. So just know that most people actually prefer someone who is 1 or 2 steps ahead. My friend told me this story of someone who they were teaching something in a school, and what they had to do was read this book. And this person that was teaching this book, they didn't read the whole book and then go and teach it to the class. What they did was they'd read 1 chapter and then go read it to the class. And then the next day they'd read another chapter, basically just getting a chapter ahead of the students and teach it to the class. Okay, so they were only 1 step ahead of their students. And that was enough. The students learned all the information they needed to know. And as this teacher kept learning more, then they can teach more. And that's the same thing for you. As you keep learning more, then you can teach more. And you'll continue to learn all the time. Every day we learn something new. So just knowing that being only 1 or 2 steps ahead is okay, because you'll keep acquiring knowledge throughout your lifetime, and you'll keep teaching what you learn as you learn it. So that is the first part of imposter syndrome. The second part is that you probably know more than you think you do. So you might be saying to yourself, I'm not an expert. Do I even know that much? Maybe I don't know anything. You might really be questioning what you know. Here's the thing. Because you know it so well, it just comes natural to you. So you may feel like you don't know a whole lot, but it's because you actually know it so well that it's just normal for you. It doesn't feel like new information. So you have all the knowledge to teach it to someone else. And you've probably acquired this knowledge quite gradually. So it probably didn't come in all at once. It was a very gradual process, right? So when we learn things gradually and we eventually end up becoming an expert in them, we don't always notice. So it's kind of the same way. Think about it in the same way as losing weight. So for example, let's pretend that you are losing weight, and every day you lose a little bit of weight. You don't really notice because you see yourself every day, and you end up losing 50 pounds, and you look a little bit different, but you don't really think you look that different because it was so gradual. And then you go and pull a picture of yourself from how you used to look, and you're like, wow, I did not realize that I lost so much weight. Or you see someone who you haven't seen since before you lost the weight, and they're like, oh my gosh, you've lost so much weight. That's because to them, it wasn't gradual. And you looking back at the picture isn't gradual. But when you're in the situation, it's gradual. Same thing when you're acquiring knowledge. It's all gradual, and you may not even realize how much you know because it's happened so slowly. So really just look back at where you were 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 5 years ago. How much knowledge did you have then compared to how much you have now? Okay, so that's where your audience is. That's where your clients are. That's where the people is that you want to teach. They're where you used to be. And just think, how much more do I know from where I was then? And you might just be blown away at how much more you do know. So everyone's journey is different. So sometimes when we're in that imposter syndrome, we can really start to compare ourselves to other people. So you might be comparing where you are to someone else and saying, this person is so much farther ahead, and maybe I am an imposter. But really just understanding that everyone has a unique journey, and it unfolds in a way that your soul wants it to unfold. It unfolds in a way that is perfect for you. So just understanding that even though you may be comparing yourself to where someone else is, they probably were where you are at one point. And it doesn't matter how fast it happens. Maybe something happened for them faster in regards to one area of their life, but maybe things are going a lot slower in a different area. But like I said, just understanding that everyone's journey is unique, and however it's unfolding for you is perfect. And speaking about that perfect, just knowing that it's okay not to be perfect. So if you're one of those people, and you can't see me, but I am like raising my hand, I am one of those people who thinks that I have to do everything perfectly. It's definitely a work in progress to kind of switch that mindset, to understand that, first of all, there is no perfection. Second of all, perfection is in the eye of the beholder. What is perfect? To someone, one thing might be perfect to someone else it may not be. So it's really about perspective and understanding that even if you make a small mistake, that's okay. Everyone makes those small mistakes. And it doesn't mean that you're incompetent. It doesn't mean that you can't do it. It just means that you are human. And everyone, like I said, everyone, I've got emails from experts who, sorry, I forgot to send the attachment or whatever it is. Things happen. So just understanding that it's okay not to be perfect. And sometimes when we get into that perfection mindset, sometimes it's like, even if we reach 99% of our goals, we may still think that's not good enough. And it's really just overcoming that perfection mindset and celebrating the little wins. So celebrating the little victories, the little wins, and just knowing that also that failure is part of the process, is literally the part of the process of getting to success. So if you feel like an imposter because you don't know everything, or you don't feel like an expert, just know also that experts don't know every single thing about a specific subject. What they do is they have a lot of knowledge. So they don't know everything. I don't think anyone knows everything that is in this 3D human experience, but just understanding that there are some questions that they can't answer. And sometimes, they just give their best information. And that's the same with you. You can just give your best information. If you don't know an answer to some sort of a question, then it is okay to direct that question to someone else, or to offer up some other solution, offer up some other form of solution that may not be your own solution. As long as you're helping someone, as long as you're guiding them to what solution they need, even if it doesn't come from you, that's what people want. And, like I said, that imposter syndrome can creep in. You can be like, well, I should know this. It's okay that you don't know it. You know what? This is your opportunity to learn it. Someone asks you a question that you don't know. That's your opportunity. Now you'll learn it. Now you'll become even more of an expert. So it's actually quite a good thing when people do ask questions you don't know, because it actually helps you to, dig for the answer, figure it out. And so then you'll know how to answer that question next time. So sometimes when we're feeling that imposter syndrome, the ego can creep up, and the ego might think that it's not good enough if you have to struggle to find a solution. So like I said, if someone asks you a question, you have to struggle to find it. The ego might pop up and all of a sudden freak out. Oh, I'm not good enough because I don't know this question. So it's about acknowledging that is just the ego, and it's okay. You know what? When the ego does that, you can just say, thank you for trying to protect me, but I don't need your help right now. And that kind of sets the ego aside. And, then you can kind of get back to your core and say, you know what? Yeah, that's okay that I don't know every single thing. That's just my ego trying to say that I'm not good enough, trying to say that I'm an imposter. But the ego is always trying to put labels on things. Okay. So the ego is always, saying, it might say things like, you're not good enough, or you're an imposter, or, the ego might say other, good things too. It might say you are this, like the ego likes to define things. So, if you have a job, let's pretend you're a teacher, the ego might say you are a teacher. Like, it's defining who you are through labels, but that's not who you are. You are a whole and complete soul, and the ego is just putting labels to help to identify it. So it's doing its job. The ego isn't a bad thing. It's just doing its job. It helps to protect us when we need protection, but just thanking it and saying, you know what, ego, thank you. I am good enough and I will figure this out. So, imposter syndrome can also creep up when you think that you need to do everything on your own. So without asking for help. So if you're one of those people who think that you have to do everything on your own, and if you can't figure it out on your own, then you're an imposter, you're a failure, you don't know anything, that is simply not true. So, this one was actually a really hard one for me to let go of because I like doing everything on my own. And I came to this epiphany that like experts don't do everything on their own. Like there's so many experts in the world that have people working for them. They have people helping them. They're going to other people to help them with things. And I thought, you know what? That's the way to do it. It's like we have knowledge in a certain area, but there are certain things that we don't know, and that is okay to ask for help. You are not an imposter if you ask for help. You're actually opposite of an imposter because you're not trying to do something that you know that you cannot do. That being said, you can do anything you want, but what I kind of mean there is doing something that you really, really, really have to struggle with and that you really don't want to do. And it's going to take up a lot of your precious time when that can be used in a better way, right? So just knowing that experts are always asking for help. And unless you're like a total genius, no one can do everything on their own, right? Even Googling something is like, that's what it's there for, right? That's what it's there for, to help us. So that's how we learn, and just knowing that it's okay to ask for help. So that's actually a really great affirmation. If you like doing affirmations, it's okay to ask for help. Sometimes when the imposter syndrome creeps up, it might be because we're trying to prove that we're good enough, right? So if we're missing that self-worth piece, that self-esteem piece, then we're trying to prove either to ourselves that we're good enough, right? If, for example, your whole life you feel like you're not good enough, then imposter syndrome might creep up and say, like, see, your whole life you've not been good enough. And once again, that's the ego. That is not true. That is not who you are. So the ego might be trying to prove to yourself, maybe your parents, that you're good enough, maybe your spouse, maybe your children, maybe you're trying to, prove something to them, your friends, your coworkers, whoever it is. And like I said, our higher self knows that we're whole and complete. Our higher self knows that we're perfect. So just understanding that. And I always talk about how little kids act because I think that we can learn so much from them. So look at little kids. They really know, they really know how to act. They really know how to feel worthy. And this is, of course, talking about before they get programmed by, society or whatever to think otherwise. And what they do is they're never trying to prove that they're worthy. So I always watch my nieces and nephews, and they're never trying to prove they're worthy to each other, to themselves, to their parents. They're just living their life and they're playing, and they know that they're a soul having a human experience. They know they're worthy. Their ego isn't, as loud as ours can be at times. So really just look at them, see how they act. Like I mentioned, this is, the younger ones. Are they trying to prove anything? And they're fresher. I always find like they're fresher from source, right? Because they haven't been in this 3D world as long. So they really have that fresh energy. They really are connected to source because they were just on the other side. They may only have been in this life for a couple years, but really look at how they act and see if there's things that you can incorporate into your own experience to help you to get over if you are feeling this imposter syndrome. So this imposter syndrome is often a learned behavior. And like I mentioned, that comes from our ego. So it's learned through our past experiences. Maybe a teacher told you weren't good enough. Maybe a parent told you weren't good enough when you were younger. Maybe one of your friends said something to you. So those things can really stick with us. And then we carry them forward. So what we're trying to do is just bust through them, right? We don't need them anymore. You do not need them anymore. You can let go of it. Now is the time to let go of it. Let go of it. Know that you're not an imposter. You are absolutely capable of doing anything you want, and you're absolutely capable of having the life that you want, having the career you want, whatever it is that you want. So put your thoughts into perspective and ask, does this thought help me or hinder me? Anytime the imposter syndrome comes up, ask yourself, is this a helpful thought? Or is it hindering me? If it's not helpful, then just let it go. So I just want to go over this quote again because it's so powerful. You only need courage, not confidence. So like I said, if you're trying to do something and you feel like your confidence isn't quite there, that is okay. That will come. That will absolutely come. If you have courage, and I know you do, then you can do anything that you want. So thanks so much for listening, and I will catch you on the next episode. Thank you for spending time with me on the Elevate Within podcast. I appreciate you being here with me. If you could take one moment to share this episode on social media, tag me in it, or share it with someone personally that you think would love this, that would be absolutely amazing. Also, if you're loving this podcast, be sure to share it with me by leaving a review on iTunes and by subscribing to this channel so I can keep providing you with content that will truly leave you elevated within. I can't wait to connect with you on the next show.